My name is Justin, and I'm an addict. And thanks to my God, the steps, and the fellowship of other addicts, I'm sober, one day at a time, since June 19th, 2015. And for that, I am beyond grateful. Welcome to the RICO 12 speaker meeting. We are an organization whose addictions include alcohol, drugs, lust and sex, food and gambling, just to name a few. We come together from all places, faiths, and backgrounds to learn the similarities of addiction and to gain tools and hope from others who are walking a similar path. We invite recovering addicts with at least 1 year sobriety and who are actively working their recovery in their respective fellowships to share their experience, strength, and hope on a live Zoom meeting each Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific time for 20 to 25 minutes. Then we, the live audience, get the opportunity to ask questions of the speaker for another 20 to 25 minutes. In order to ask questions, please type them in the Q&A link at the bottom of your Zoom window. If you are hearing this podcast recorded and would like to participate as a live audience member in a future broadcast, or if you'd like to be a guest speaker in a future meeting, please go to www.rico12.com to learn more and to submit your email address there to receive weekly invitations or to submit to become a guest speaker. This week's meeting is entitled Nikki M, How the Big Book Saved a Sex and Love Addict. RICO 12 is an ad-free service, and we appreciate your help in keeping it that way. We gratefully accept contributions to help cover the cost of the Zoom platform, podcast platform, web hosting, and administrative costs. The guest speaker also chooses a fellowship or recovery-centered organization to which the majority of contributions from that week's meeting will be donated. To contribute, you can go to www.rico12.com/support, or you can click in the link to PayPal, which I'll have in the chat here in a little bit. Or if you use Venmo, you can also contribute there. Our handle is at RICO-12, TWELVE, instead of the number 12 on that one. When you contribute, please specify the meeting number. This is meeting number 7. In last week's meeting, we heard from Terrence S., who shared his experience with addictive, compulsive shoplifting and theft. It was a super interesting meeting and a beautiful conversation with great insights. If you missed hearing that one or any other meeting we have done, you can listen to them in podcast form by searching for RICO 12, the number 12, speaker meeting podcast on virtually any podcast platform that you use. Or you can go to the RICO 12 website and find it under the link podcast. Now, let's introduce our guest speaker for today, Nikki M. All right, so Nikki is one of the founding members of the Wednesday night SLAA Big Book meeting. Her program of recovery began by the grace of God, the power of 12 steps, and the fellowships of CA, Cocaine Anonymous, AL-ANON, and SLAA. Nikki's story is one of transformation and healing, distinguished by her practical application of the Big Book's 12 steps and traditions as a program of daily living. Awakened to the spirituality of life, Nikki has been empowered to rise up from the bottomless depths of despair, hopelessness, and futility. I love the wording in this, Nikki. It's awesome. Today, she carries the message to countless rooms, sponsors, both men and women, and has the awareness that her life depends on working this program of action every day. Lifted by the grace of God and propelled by the power of 12 steps, Nikki works a rigorously honest program and enjoys freedom from bondage of self, a full and grateful heart, and a spirit filled with hopes, dreams, and possibilities. Nikki, it's your turn. Take it away. I'm excited to hear from you.
Wow, thank you. That's a wonderful introduction. And that's exactly what's happened to me through this beautiful program. Hi, I'm Nikki M, and I'm a grateful member of many fellowships. My main one is SLAA, but I am obviously a member of AL-ANON because I love addicts and I have lots of friends that are addicts. So by default, that's how I came into the rooms. And let me just start from the beginning. I found the rooms of Al-Anon because I was spinning out of control. Long story short, I was trying to get under someone to get over someone. That's what sex addicts do and love addicts do. And I found this raging alcoholic, and my friends were like, Nikki, you're crazy. Like, things are not well. And I don't remember how, but I was directed to the rooms of Al-Anon, and I went in trying to fix this new lover I had. And basically, long story short, I realized that I needed to be fixed. So it was through the rooms of Al-Anon that I found SLAA. I was in the rooms of Al-Anon for about 4 years, and I was getting some relief. I mean, yeah, I was learning to let go and let God, and the slogans were giving me a little comfort. And I actually found a sponsor. I mean, I couldn't find one. And finally I found one who said, Nikki, I'm tired of hearing you say that you can't find a sponsor. I'll be more than happy to take you through. And we went through the Al-Anon literature, and it was, I don't know, year 3, and I was on step 6, and I was dying. But this was a fabulous gay man in Al-Anon, and he said, you know what? You sound like you have a sex and love problem. And I was like, no, I don't. That doesn't sound like, that's not me. And because I associated sex with someone who's out every night doing crazy things. And, just I had a different idea of what it meant. I didn't realize it meant assigning magical, mystical qualities to people and blaming them for ruining my life. I didn't realize that was a characteristic. So I was open-minded as the program asked me to be, and I went into the rooms of SLAA and I found home. And I was like, oh my God, this is where I really need to be. And I was still in Al-Anon because of course, at 4 years in, I had found people who were just like me and loving people. And I still am a member of that home group 8 years later. And I hold a position. I'm a treasurer and the official online greeter at our Thursday Al-Anon meeting. Anyway, I was in SLAA, and it was really hard for me to find a sponsor. And I'm a pretty aggressive woman, you can say, and I have a certain amount of confidence. Sometimes it's arrogance that I have. So it was really difficult for me to find it in SLAA. Of course, women only go with women. And I was having trouble finding someone who had what I wanted, because a lot of the meetings that I was going to was filled with self-pity. These were therapy sessions. They weren't solution-focused, spreading the message meetings. They were helpful, but they weren't getting me better. So I remember, long story short, my neighbor where I'm at right now using his computer, who was a guest speaker on here a few weeks ago, Cameron F., I went over, I was crying. I said, my Al-Anon sponsor fired me because I didn't call him at 8 a.m. on the Friday morning that he asked me to. Well, I work nights and I wasn't up at that time. I do weddings. So no, I wasn't up. And Cameron said, and I was literally dying at this point. I wasn't getting better. I was getting actually worse. I was getting more into me, self, I. And Cameron came over. He lives right across the street. I mean, this is how God works. And he said, I'm going to take you through the 12 steps. And we started going through this big book, the original undiluted message of the 12 steps. I wasn't in the SLAA book. I wasn't in the Al-Anon literature. I was in the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I'm not an alcoholic. I can take it or leave it. I grew up in an alcoholic household, so I have many of these traits of an alcoholic, but I can take it or leave it. But I am a true addict, depending on what I'm shoving in my God-shaped hole. Once I start, I can't control the amounts of thoughts, men, money, self-pity, fear. And once I start, I can't stop. And I've just lost control in those areas. And I can manage in other areas of my life. So Cameron started taking me through this workbook, or through the big book, I should say, as a condensed version of workbook. And we started going through the big book, and I had no idea what I was doing. But I started waking up. I did a searching and fearless moral inventory, not a softer and gentler way, but the real way, as directed through the big book. Cameron took me through a solid step 1 to show me that I am beyond human aid, period. He took me through a list of things, and I realized that I had tried everything under the sun. I'm from California. I forgot to tell Justin that. I'm actually from Orange County, and I came to Toronto, and my problems followed me. Location didn't work. I had a daughter, and when that one didn't work, I asked, I need a son. God gave me a son, and that didn't make it any better. I had lots of money, no money, lots of sex, no sex, lots of, working out. Nothing was working. Self-help books, self-help weekends. I paid $1,000 to be in Bellingham, Washington to learn about myself. These things lasted for a moment. I've been to therapy. I've been to church. You name it, nothing was working. I was in the meetings for 4 years, and I was dying in the rooms of SLAA and Al-Anon. And I love these fellowships. I don't want it to be taken as negative, but I was getting a watered down version. I was in a room where people were not sharing the solution. They were sharing the problem. They were sharing their experience, but not their strength and not their hope. There were a handful of people that I got this from. in Al-Anon, they were usually double winners who actually knew the big book through AA. And I also heard a couple things from a few people in SLAA who were double winners and other things and knew the big book. And I started waking up to this. And so I realized I'm beyond human aid. I am beyond human aid. And I'd lost everything. And Cameron and I don't share, my sponsor, Cameron, at the time, we didn't share the same addiction. He's an alcoholic, bourbon slamming, dope fiend. You know, I'm a male snorting, sometimes I snort humans, including my children, feelings and emotions and thoughts addict. But we suffered the same and we lost the same things. He had tried everything under the human sun like I had to get better. And he had lost all the same things that I had lost. And so powerful step one. Then a step two, of course, I'm without hope. And the only thing is this God. And I don't want to hear the word God. I don't want it to be God. I want it to be, because the God I have in my mind has ruined my life. I don't want it to be. But through this process, I start waking up and realize that God means love and tolerance and kindness and acceptance and helpfulness and honesty and responsible. That's what it means. I got to take off my 2-year-old diaper and start acting like a grown adult and start facing life on life's terms. And so that's what the book helped me see. I couldn't find exact directions in the SLAA book. It was helpful. I had read the SLAA book, the one with no name on it. So it's very indiscreet because we're special. You know, sex addicts and love addicts and relationship addicts are special. No, we're not. We're the same as the heroin addict. We're the same as the alcoholic, as the gambler, as the codependent, as the Al-Anon. Doesn't matter what you're shoving in your God-shaped hole if it's not God. And for the people who have a problem with God, I had a problem with God. I didn't want it to be God. Grow or die. Goodness over defects. This is radical stuff. It's a radical program. So long story short, I do my steps. I make a searching and fearless moral inventory. I start to wake up. I start to make an amends. A lot of it's behavior change. Because if you go through the big book, it doesn't say you got to go to that person and apologize. You know, we all get scared that we've got to go to and face these people. It says a remorseful mumbling of I'm sorry will not fit the bill. That's what the book says. There's other ways than groveling and snickering and saying you're sorry 1,000,000 times and nothing changes. It's not what we're supposed to do. Same with the searching and fearless moral inventory. A lot of people are scared about it because they're afraid they're going to have to get into sleeping with their cousins, mothers, brothers, husbands, sisters, brothers, lover. No one cares. It says moral inventory. It doesn't say actions. Why did you do it, Nikki? Because I'm lazy, because I'm greedy, because I'm lustful, because I live in self-pity and I'm selfish and self-seeking. Tell someone in Al-Anon that, they don't want to hear it. It's sometimes hard, but if they're willing and they're open-minded, they'll hear it. Same with a love and relationship addict. No one wants to hear this. Look what I do for you. You do it because I want you to behave and be and act how I need you to be. Because the book tells me I'm like the actor who wants to run the show. My life will be okay if only I manage well. Manage the people in my life, manage my thoughts, manage my job, control my coworkers. That's not true. So I don't live in reality. That's the other thing the book taught me. I know I'm flipping all over the place here, you guys, but there's just so much in this magic book. I had to suffer a lot to get to this book. This is the 12-step book. I've got my cover on it, but it's in here. First 164 pages tell me how to live life. I couldn't find it in the Al-Anon literature. I couldn't find it in the SLAA literature. Exact instructions on how to live life. This book showed me that. And now when I take people through, I replace drinking and put thinking, TH, where the DR is. Because the book says on page 23, it centers in my mind, period. It says I'm driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity. So I need the book to differentiate the truth from the false. I need a sponsor. I need all you guys. I need a fellowship. And this is a lifetime of work. So I make my amends, and then I start to live in this. I start seeking God, and that's where people like, oh, I've done my steps. No, you have just started. You have just got out of the womb when you finish your 12th step. Because next is you got to give this away. I mean, this is radical stuff. A lot of people are not working a 12-step program. A lot of people don't sponsor. That's been my experience in the room. This is all my experience too. You may have had a different experience. You may have recovered in the rooms of Al-Anon alone. You may have recovered in the rooms of SLAA, and that's great. But I'm a real addict. See, I can't stop once I start. Oh, what does that look like, Nikki? You're no good, Nikki. Life is no good, Nikki. People are no good. You should die. And that's in a second. See, I don't mess around with addiction because my mom's husband of 25 years, 3 years ago in 2017, took a gun and blew his head off in front of her in the kitchen. The next day I was on a plane to Arizona, and when my mom asked, why did this happen? Untreated Al-Anon, untreated. I'm not going to diagnose my mom, but let's just go. There's a lot of issues when this kind of stuff happens. Relationship addiction, third husband. Why did this happen? Many pursue it into the gates of insanity or death, Mom. That's my stepdad of 25 years, grandparent to my children. Serious stuff here we're dealing with. And was I mad at Grandpa when he did this? No, because the book told me he can't stop. He had no choice. He was going to pursue it into the gates of insanity or death. That's it, period. Because he had no solution. And that's where I'm going to go. See, I put a stamp on it. I had a friend the other day, he said to me, he called me and reached out and he was like, oh, Nikki, I didn't pick up. What? He's a crackhead. I didn't pick up crack. But he went and acted out. However he acts out with women and all these different things. You used. I'm sorry. You didn't shove God in your God-shaped hole. You shoved a woman. You shoved money. You shoved a thought. You shoved food. You shoved anything but God. So you used. So I heard Justin, when he introduced himself, he has a sobriety date. Nikki doesn't. Because the other day I shoved a thought in my hole. And it was really hard for me to have a sobriety date in this program, especially in SLAA or in Al-Anon. I've been in the rooms 8 years. Emotionally sober. Yeah, I've been here for a while. Exact date, exact time, I don't know. Because I've been spinning for years in the rooms. And then did it happen the minute? Did I have a Bill Wilson moment like Bill Wilson talks about in our book, was a awakening, like not an awakening, an experience. God came down and took his hand, and no, that wasn't me. I had the kind they talk about on page 567, the spiritual awakening, the educational variety. I'm slowly waking up. I'm constantly seeking God. It took me 8 years in the room. It took me this year to get the money removed. God, through COVID, removed my money obsession. Through COVID, through a pandemic, I had that obsession removed. The men obsession, first of all, I had one DOC. It was one guy, 10 years, that was going to take me out. I was going to kill him and kill myself, period. That's how sick it got for me. So once that DOC was removed, then the men, then the people, then the food, my sugar addiction, now the money, thoughts. The broad highway gets very narrow. And if you're an addict of all sorts, well, you got to start with the main one, which is drugs and alcohol. That's got to be removed. Then you get rid of these things slowly. Don't think you're going to jump in all addictions one time. It doesn't happen that way. God removes it when God removes it. It doesn't say Nikki's going to remove it. It doesn't say the fellowship's going to remove it. It says God's going to remove it. This is radical, radical stuff. And so I'm going to ask my new friends and old friends out there. I love page 133 where it says, we are sure God wants us to be happy, joyous, and free. Are you sure? Your God. This is what's so awesome about this program. You can pick the God of your understanding. Your God. Are you sure your higher power wants you to be happy, joyous, and free? Because if you're not sure, go back and get a new one. See, mine wants me to be happy, joyous, and free. I have been reborn as a step 3 promise. I recoil from it like a hot flame. From what? Acting out like a hot flame? I recoil from pity, self-pity, fear like a hot flame. Because the book says, if I'm going to live free, I must live free of anger. The grouch and the brainstorm are not for me, is what the book says. So I don't take it. The book on page 86 says, I must not drift off. I can't. And when I do, I know how to get back. These instructions on this book. So friends, if you feel like you're not an alcoholic, fine. Replace drinking with thinking. Replace it with acting out. Replace it with food. Replace it with scrolling. See, I was scrolling my life away on all these social media shits. I can't do it. During COVID, I thought, oh, Nikki, You can put Instagram back on so you can see all your friends and family in California. And, but no, I can't. God created miracles in my life. And I met a fabulous man 2 years ago. Guess where he lives? In Luxembourg. We met in Cuba on a vacation. He lives in Luxembourg. I spent the whole month of January 2020 at his house in Europe. I came back and I was supposed to be there March. These are the miracles of God. March, May. Guess what? We're in COVID. I can't go. And guess what? That's God's plan. That's God's plan. There's nothing I can do about it. Page 417. And acceptance is the answer to all my problems. When I am disturbed, it's because I cannot accept something, some person, some situation exactly the way it's supposed to be. So there's just, an instruction book for life we had to suffer real hard. See, I wanted to die. And my sickness wanted me to kill this innocent man in the process because he wouldn't have me. And then when he wouldn't have me, I had to get under someone to get over someone. It was a vicious cycle. And I had it all. House, healthy, happy kids, pocket dog, unionized job. Not enough. I didn't have God. I didn't have this power greater than myself. So friends, what I have to do, I'm like my old cell phone here that I was telling Justin about. It's old. I need to plug it in every hour because my phone's blowing up because I sponsor, because I started a meeting, because I was up at 8 a.m. sponsoring in Singapore. I'm in Toronto. It's 8 p.m. there, but I got up early so this woman can be saved. I sponsor men because you're all God's children, because God's removed that obsession. I see men as God's children, not men as objects and things. So this is real radical stuff. And if I sound radical, yeah, because God also, that year of 2017, gave me 2 more consecutive suicides. My girlfriend's son laid in front of a train, and my girlfriend from the 4th grade, alcohol and drugs. Yeah, a lot of multi-addiction, cross-addicted. But 9 weeks after her boyfriend left her, she killed herself. So I don't mess around. I'd swear on here and get real crazy, but I won't, because I know I want to invite everyone into loving each other and to doing this work. This is a lifetime commitment. This is not for the faint of heart. As I shared with a girl on my chat this morning, I created this girl's WhatsApp chat for suffering addicts, and she's going through withdrawal. And I said to her, yeah, you're going to feel like you're dying, but it's that withdrawal pain is better than the dying of the drugs, the alcohol, the men, the money, the food. Go through it and we'll get through it together. You're not alone. The words in the book say wholeheartedly. They say earnestly. They say we throw ourselves harder into helping others. These are radical words. Vigorously. This is not for the faint of heart. If you're not ready to make a decision to turn your life to a power greater than yourself, then I'm sorry, go out and suffer more. Because I had to. And took me 8 years to get to this. But my new title, servant. Sometimes I do it better than others on certain days. Sometimes I'm not the greatest. But I know how to get back. I know how to make an amends. I know how to call someone, reach out, differentiate the true from the false. Because I'm driven by 400 forms of weirdness. Page 62. Quit playing God. It doesn't work. I trust God. So while my 16-year-old son's running amok, guess what? God's got this. See, I'm saving his children. God's going to save my children. I believe this wholeheartedly. I trust God. I clean house and I help others. That's the point of this program. So I don't know how much more I should go on, Justin, how long I've been talking. I could talk forever. See, this magic book is endless.
Yeah, why don't we give it another 3 or 4 minutes and then we'll wrap it up and go over to Q&A.
Okay, fabulous. So how will I wrap it up? I'm going to wrap it up with this. Long story short, friends, get a home group and get into a meeting that shares a solution. You mentioned CA. Why am I in the rooms of Cocaine Anonymous when I don't snort cocaine or heroin or crystal meth? I mean, I've tried some drugs and blah, blah, blah. It just doesn't do it for me. Once you snort a human, forget about it. But I'm in the rooms of Cocaine Anonymous, the open meetings that allow me to come in. And actually, I've actually been asked to speak as a speaker in these rooms. And I've sponsored a lot of women in there because they put down alcohol and drugs and they pick up men, money, gambling, thoughts, food, cutting, scrolling, you name it. So long story short, get into the rooms that have healthy, big book messages. Start a big book meeting if you want. Get a sponsor who's armed with the facts. A sponsor is not to hear your problems. Yeah, they listen, but I don't give much time for that. What does the book say when you're spinning? I'm sorry, you drifted off. That's what the book says. Did you wake up this morning and ask God to divorce you from self-pity? Because if you didn't, get back to the book. People in here 20 years sober, and I don't want what they have because they don't follow the instructions of the book. They're not happy, joyous, and free. And that's what the book promises. So get to healthy meetings. Get a sponsor who is armed with the facts about themselves, who knows they're beyond human aid, who knows the undiluted message of the big book, not their message. What is the message? What is the reality? Not their reality, the reality. Because we're just sick people helping sick people. I mean, that's what we're doing. And the other thing is sponsor. If you are not sponsoring, well, you're missing the magic. I've literally, like Cameron told me, he goes, Nikki, go out and create your own 100. And I did. And so a sponsee of mine started a Monday night women's codependency big book meeting, because go to a coda room. I know a lot of women who go there and they suffer because they're not in the solution. I mean, it's just bottom line. This is my truth. And I hope you disagree. I want to hear from you. I mean, Justin's going to post our SLAA Toronto Wednesday night big book meeting. And I'm available. You'll find me somewhere. And I want to hear if you disagree or you agree. I mean, I want us all to get better. Because guess what? No two DNAs are the same. No two programs are the same. What Justin does is what is different from me, but we're at the same place. We're helping others. We're trusting God. And we're cleaning house, period. So sponsor, that's where the magic happens. I usually, what my week looks like now in COVID, I'm a full-time sponsor, period. I remember in 2019, I had said, God, I just want to sponsor full-time. Here I am. Careful what you wish for, you just might get it. See, God will do for us what we cannot do for ourselves. So I'm just a full-time sponsor serving God's people, and I'm really happy to be here to share the message, Justin. Thank you so much.
Holy crap. That was awesome. That was great, Nikki. I really appreciate the energy. I love the energy and story that you have there. And I love how you emphasize the message of being solution focused and not problem focused or therapy focused. That's really powerful. And I don't remember if I shared this with you, but before we get into the questions that have come in and questions that I have, would you mind sharing, Nikki, for about 60 seconds about SLAA World Organization and why you chose that organization as the one you wanted contributions from this meeting to go to?
Yeah, really quickly. I love SLAA. I mean, I just love it. And SLAA is where I got my where I initially really started waking up to what my real problem was. And why I picked that organization is because we are a smaller fellowship and we do need your contributions, your time, and your support. I also have reached out to World Service when my own intergroup was giving me trouble for starting the big book meeting and keeping it an open meeting. Our intergroup wanted it to be closed because, of course, the nature of our disease. But no, it's open to anybody. Even if you just want to learn about it, we have an open meeting, open to anybody with any addiction or affliction. And so I want to support that. So our intergroup will know that each group is autonomous and each group can decide as long as it's for the greater good. And we have actually been helping SLAA, not hurting it by having an open meeting. We've actually been able to bring in more people by it being open. So I just want to support this. And I did reach out to World during that, and they were helpful. And so that's why I want to make sure that this organization keeps growing, that we can support this fellowship, because it is a powerful fellowship. Because I'll tell you, at the base root of all addictions, my experience has been people. And what makes an addict go out and pick up a drink, a drug, a person is another person. Because that's what we do. I should say, I take people hostage and it's over. So please give kindly and generously to SLAA, and I know your contributions would be appreciated.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. I appreciate that. Now, to our listening audience here, if you felt the nudging to make a small contribution, please do so through the links here in the chat or the ones that I'll put in the show notes of the podcast, or go to rico12.com/support, or go right to SLAA, the SLAA website that I have in the chat, and also we'll put in the notes. Nikki, you mentioned a WhatsApp group that you have for women. Is that something that you are willing to share? Send me the link to, or whatever, so that
Absolutely.
when women reach out and ask for that to join in, I can do that.
Absolutely. And we take all addictions and afflictions, of course. And I try to, you can't control what other people do. That's what I've learned. But we really try and stay big book solution oriented. And that's how our main purpose, of course, is to link untreated addicts with treated addicts, untreated people who are in the room spinning and need the big book solution. I encourage big book sponsorship in our WhatsApp group.
Awesome.
Send that to you after.
All right, it's now time for Nikki to answer your questions. I look forward to getting several questions. I have some here, Nikki, for the next 15, 20 minutes, or however long we have questions up to the hour. We'll go through that. And remember, if you're here live, please ask those questions through the Q&A little bubble down there at the bottom of your Zoom page. It looks like two speech bubbles next to each other. Ask your questions through there. I have a question for you. You talked about the blessings of sponsorship and how many people that you meet in the rooms, work through their 12 steps and may continue to attend meetings, but don't sponsor. Why do you think that is, that people choose not to sponsor at that point? And then what are the blessings of overcoming that fear and starting to sponsor?
Well, why people don't sponsor is because, bottom line, they don't have a good sponsor. Bottom line, the first thing that I take when I take anybody through, the first line is, helping others is the foundation stone of your recovery. A kindly act once in a while isn't enough. That's the first line we circle. Then I take them to page 102, helping others, helping others, not as the foundation stone, it's, be of help. Your job, our job, is to be of maximum helpfulness to others. That's your job. So the big book now is telling you that it's a foundation stone of your recovery. It's also saying that it's your job to be of maximum helpfulness. And then I take them to page 77, which says your only purpose. So before, new sponsee, you thought your only purpose was to shove your God-shaped hole with your human needs. It says right here, your only purpose is to serve God and God's children. So, and then I remind them that the biggest chapter in the big book is working with others. That's the biggest, number one. That's the biggest chapter. Number two, there's 12 steps in a 12-step program. You're only doing 11 steps. You're not doing the 12 steps. So get out, go. You're just taking up a warm seat. I get real hard about sponsorship. And what is the miracles? I can read them. It says, life will take on new meaning. To see others recover is something you do not want to miss. Page 152 talks about the fellowship promises. You will have lifelong friends. You will commence shoulder to shoulder this journey. The age of miracles is still among us. This is all in the book. I can't make this up. I'm not, that's a divine intervention, this book. So sponsorship is where it's at. And if you're not sponsoring, you're dying, period. And sponsorship, sometimes, I have to be fair, Justin, it is one-on-one taking someone through the book, but a lot of the time it's helpful. I have a friend in program. She does not take anyone through the book, but she's one of the founding members of our group. She sends people to me, and she's out there networking, and she's out there getting people, bringing them in. She is basically the bread and butter of our group, but she doesn't necessarily take someone through. We kind of have like a team going here. She brings people in, and I got them lined up waiting.
Awesome. And I've also experienced that, where giving back, working my step 12, sponsoring others, and this platform right here is one way I work my step 12, giving back. But I still sponsor others because you mentioned there the light that, I don't remember how you said that, but this is how I say it. When I see a light go on behind their eyes of, I get it. There's something here that I'm now understanding. I see the light in your eyes or in somebody else's eyes, but I've never experienced that in my own life.
Just to finish on that real quick, it's just like it does say, when all other measures fail, which means when you're beyond human aid, work with another addict will save the day. That's it. we are beyond human aid. So that's, if you are suffering at home and you go, well, I've tried everything. Have you sponsored? Because it says clearly in the instructions of our golden book that work with another addict will save the day. You get to, it's a pay it forward program, Justin. That's what people don't realize. You get to keep it by giving it away. So sponsorship or die.
I've heard a lot of different theories, and I guess I have my own different theories along the lines of when should I start sponsoring? What is your take on that? When you're walking with somebody through the steps, when do you say, hey, go pick somebody up and start sponsoring them?
The minute usually it's step 11, I'm like, you're ready to sponsor step 12. But because remember, it's 1 through 9 really that you just keep repeating over and over. And then 10, 11, 12, you're just maintaining this lifestyle every day. So if you've done step 11 with me and by step 12, you're not ready to put that pen down and you don't have someone lined up, usually I have someone lined up for them. I mean, this is how busy God is sending people so I can give them to my sponsees too. And guess what? Through this, I had a sponsee in LA recently. She lit up on fire. I haven't heard from her since she put her step 12 pen down because she's got sponsees galore. Nikki, I can't call you. I got a sponsee. Nikki, she doesn't need me because God's her sponsor. She's following the instructions of the book and she's giving it away. She's on fire.
It sounds like, well, you're definitely on fire. It sounds like you inspire fire in other people too, and I admire that. You're inspiring fire in me right now, and I appreciate that. What are some other tricks of the trade? I mean, I know you follow through with the big book and the program that is there. What are some of the magic tricks that you have found to help others go, oh, I get it?
Well, definitely there's a line in our book that says, see where religious people are right, make use of what they offer. So what I did is I studied a radical Jew named Jesus Christus, Jesus Christ. And you just try and attraction, not promotion. So I really watched this guy. What did he did when he was accused of things? And he didn't say anything. So when Nikki's accused of things, I say nothing. You know what I mean? Or when everyone came running to him about the woman who committed adultery, and he said, throw the first stone, those who have not sinned. And everyone walked away. So I have taken these things. I've got a guru in Hinduism online. I mean, this is all online. I can study these things. And so how do I do it? It's attraction, not promotion. I've changed. I am a different person. People around me can see that. My boss said to me, Nikki, I've seen the changes in you, because I'm not on him crazy, losing my mind. I'm listening. I don't know everything. I'm quiet. So that's how I encourage people. And I also share my experience, strength, and hope with those who are suffering. I have a 28-year-old daughter, and I know a lot of young girls who are dying in their addiction from people, from men, scrolling, all these things. And I just tell them my experience and say, when you're ready, here it is. They're not ready, but they're open to it. And how my daughter's changed, Justin, is I've shared all of this with her. I mean, she's listened in on my speaking sometimes. And when I tell her when I share that I chose a man over my children, her reaction is, I'm so proud of you, Mom. You've changed. So she can see the change in me. So it's really attraction, not promotion. When you start living your life like this is a lifestyle. You can't go back to your old lifestyle, friends. You just can't, period. So that's how we attract people to come into this. They want what you have. That's what it says. We can't give away what we don't have. So if you're not on fire, you're not on fire. You're not there's a direction you're not following in the book, period.
I like that. And a thought just came to my mind as you were discussing the attraction, not promotion. When I go into some rooms, there are people that I definitely see that have that light in their eyes. They're just laser beams coming out. And there are other people who talk the talk, but there's not the light there. And I think, you see like attracts like. Sometimes there's somebody who says, you know what, I really want to go to the light there and get what he has. And other times I might go, I want to hang out with somebody who is dark and cold like me. How have you seen, how do I ask this? How has light shined light on dark corners of a room? Have you seen that where maybe there was a little clique of people that were kind of dark and then all of a sudden the light came on there and they were attracted to the light?
Absolutely. So what it says in our book, Justin, it says, we make the approach. It says, we who have recovered make the approach. So if you're in a room, when we go back after COVID into a big book, into any room, any fellowship room, and you've recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, you make the approach to the suffering addict. They're suffering in the corner. They don't know what to do. Oh, raise your hand if you can sponsor. These people can't raise their hand for anything except more of me. So we make the approach and we tell them, hey, you're suffering. Do you want a solution? You armed with the facts, you go over to them. Even on Zoom, when you see someone crying or whining about their problem, private message them. Say, do you want a solution? The book clearly says we make the approach. We don't raise our hand and wait for a suffering addict to come to us. They don't know how. So again, people are not following the instructions. We're the light. We move to the darkness.
So when you're sitting in a Zoom meeting, which, most of the meetings are today because of COVID, and you see somebody that's just suffering, you make that approach, maybe private message them in Zoom and say, hey, do you want the solution? How do you word that?
Absolutely. I heard you're suffering. Like, there is a solution. You don't need to. Plus, I'll be honest, Justin, I am on fire because I do this work. I mean, I sponsor every single day. It's just God's put that on me. So when my message and I'm sharing at a meeting and my face is in the camera and I look and I say, I'm not leaving here without a sponsee, message me. They're going to message me. So that's come from the power of God. Of course, this is all the power of my creator that I have this energy, because I was a woman who was lying in her bed wanting to die 4 years ago. So I don't know, I don't know how I followed the exact instructions, but really what you do is when you're on a Zoom meeting and you're armed with the facts, you message that person and you say, here's my number. And when they call and they want to talk and I had someone call recently and said, well, don't you want to hear my story? No, I don't. Let's get to the steps. She's already on step 4. And I didn't have to hear her story. And I said, do you see that? Instead of talking for 2 hours about your problem, we finished step 1. Period. And we didn't have to talk about your problem. You're in the solution.
So when do you share your story? Because I know a big part of the big book with Bill W. and Dr. Bob, when they went out into the hospitals, the clinics, I can't remember what it's called in the big book, to share the message, they went and told their story. They didn't ask them to tell. So when do you tell your story in those situations?
Usually right away. And because I was armed with the facts about myself, I can go right down the checklist of things. It's like, have you tried willpower? Did that work for you? No, it didn't work for me either. Did you try substitution strategies? Did you move? Because I moved too. Did you have a couple babies? Did you get a divorce? Did you shove a bunch of money in and thinking it would be better? Did you suffer incomprehensible demoralization? Because I did. Let me tell you how I woke up one morning. Okay, let me tell you, I went to bed that night. And I just 10 minutes of this. Do you have a good reason to stop? Can you? No. And after 10 minutes of this dialogue of going through all the human aids, have you exercised yourself to death thinking that a tight ass is going to make it better for you? Have you had interventions? Have you had a spiritual experience and thought you were fine for a year, and the next thing you know, you want to die the next year once he leaves, once she leaves, once the kids are out of the house and you don't know what to do with yourself because you've relied on them to make you feel better? Tell me. So look, I can share that with you in a few minutes. I see you shaking your head. Yeah, you've suffered the same as me. Nothing works. And what did you lose? Because I lost time, family, opportunities for a husband because I pushed them all away, children, friends, self-respect, money, opportunities, peace of mind, intelligence, family time. Did you lose those things? Did you lose emotional security, responsibility to yourself and to others? So basically you're admitting you're powerless, you're beyond human aid, and your life's unmanageable. You've lost everything. Let's go. Let's do this.
Love that. Man, your energy is just infectious. I appreciate that, Nikki. Before we close up, do you have any closing words of wisdom that you want to share with us?
Oh, what do I want to share? I want to say this to our friends. It came on me the other day in a deep meditation, and it was like, Nikki, you've always gotten what you've wanted. It may be bad. You wanted him, and you got him, and you suffered for 10 years. Okay? So I want my friends out there to get honest, get radically in the moment, because it says in our big book, may you find him now, which is here in this moment. Get honest, because it says we have to be radically honest, okay? Rigorously honest. If you really think about it, God's giving you everything you want, your higher power, life. Like, we're not, and maybe you've gotten things that you didn't think you needed, but in the end, it's really worked out. But what I've realized in that deep meditation is that God only has 3 answers for me. Yes, Nikki. Not now, Nikki. I've got something better for you, Nikki. There is no. And if there is ever been like a no, meaning not now, Nikki, it was for my betterment, but I can't see it. See, because I like to play God. I think I know better than God, because right up there at the top of my character defect list, Justin, is arrogance, because I think I know better than God. And I'm going to leave this with you guys on page 417. It's just, know that page, babies, in our book, because it says, when I complain about me, or I complain about you or the world or anybody, I'm complaining about God's handiwork. I am saying that I know better than God. And my little note says here, Nikki, you're so effing arrogant to think you know better than God. I know nothing. God knows everything. So please, friends, remember, it's your own concept. Stay here. This is not an overnight matter. 8 years in the room, and God's just setting me free during a pandemic, like absolute freedom during a pandemic where I'm free. And so can you be. So that's what I want to leave you with. 3 answers. Yes, not now. I've got something better for you.
Beautiful. Thanks again, Nikki. That was a great RICO 12 weekly speaker meeting for all addicts and those wanting to learn about addiction and the recovery therefrom. If we didn't get to your question, or you didn't have a chance to type it in, please go to rico12.com/forum and join in our community and ask those questions and answer others' questions that will come up. I invite the audience to come back next week. If you have not yet gone to rico12.com and submitted your email address, you only need to do it once. Please get on the invitation list so you can join us live each Friday at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time for these amazing meetings. Now I'm just doing a little post-recording editing. Before Nikki and I started officially recording in this, we had a really cool short conversation that I think would be very beneficial to add on to the end of this podcast recording for many of you to hear and get some more information about her and her journey and just who she is and what she is. Just amazing. And then we'll go and close it up with the Step 7 prayer that we'll get to after this. Have a quick conversation here. How's your day been? And that'll help me get some sound.
Actually, what happened, Justin, before I came on here, I was doing my friend does a podcast, 12-Step, and he asked me to come on and talk about how to be helpful in a general way. But of course, I related it back to 12-Step because that's my life.
Right.
So that gave me 20 minutes of warming up, because he asked 4 questions. How can you be helpful to your clients, to like your workplace, to your family, and of course to strangers that you meet? And of course, none of us are strangers. When you're in 12-Step, we're all
we're all brothers and sisters.
That's right.
It's good stuff. Well, the sound sounds good. I think it'll record just great, and we'll be good. I've got you set up as a panelist, but you don't need to worry about anything.
I'm not going to touch anything, because this is all I have, my stupid phone. So long story short, Cameron was so generous to let me come over, because when it's recorded, if someone called or something weird, I don't know. You know what I mean? So this is great. So how is it going right now? Are you guys getting a lot of followers on your thing, or what's happening?
So, I mean, this will be the 7th meeting, I believe, and we're growing steadily each meeting. And, we're just doing it word of mouth. I'm doing zero advertising at all. It's just, hey, when people run across us, they can elect to have their emails submitted so that I can send them invitations. And we're getting anywhere from, live 8 to 15 people in the live audiences, and then it's listened to a lot more times podcast form.
Okay, fabulous. So you have our SLAA website, slaatoronto.org.
Yep, I've got that link.
That's awesome. And just because I would have posted it in my thing, but I thought I might be able to give a better message. The girls are sick of hearing me, but our meetings grow. Number one, our SLAA meeting in Toronto, because of Zoom. And then also, I have a WhatsApp group with women from all over the world that I started, and we've already got over 120 women on there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, all about, all addictions, but mostly shoving men thoughts.
Yeah.
Women's, got lesbians on there too, whatever. People
Right.
in their God-shaped hole. So maybe when it's recorded, I'll put it on there and they can just check it out. I did that with Cameron, of course, because most of my girls that I sponsor, how I take them through is through Cameron's workbook. Have you seen Cameron's workbook?
I have.
Yeah. So that's how I sponsor everybody.
That's awesome.
Through that workbook. And it's just, it's a lazy man's way, cold man's notes, but it's the best way to get in there and get started and get relief. So then you can eventually wake up and learn the whole entire book and live the lifetime of practice, right?
Yeah, if I remember kind of how Cameron says it a lot, I wanted my dope hit right away. And if it's going to take me, 11 steps or whatever if it's going to take me a long time before I get that God dope,
absolutely,
it's not going to help me out much. So.
Absolutely. And the God dope is amazing. So when you ask me how I am, I'm pretty high today.
Awesome.
Off God dope, of course.
On God dope, exactly.
Justin, what's your main fellowship?
So my main fellowship is SAL. Sexaholics Anonymous Lifeline.
Oh, okay. I've never even heard of that.
Yeah, it's a smaller one, based out of Utah, and it's mostly in the Western United States. But that's my main known fellowship. I found recovery in a church-specific based fellowship called Addiction Recovery Program in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's where I first came into contact with the 12 steps, and I've attended some AA, some SA, some, and some different Zoom meetings, and it's been a huge blessing in my life to be able to do these things. So.
Yeah, awesome. And try and come out to our Wednesday night if you can ever get on, because it's an open meeting, which is unusual. We got a lot of flack for that in my fellowship, being Sex and Love Anonymous, and a lot of people think they're special. Or their disease special. It's like, no, it's not. It's not unique. Doesn't matter what you're shoving. Any room is dangerous, not just ours.
Right.
And so we're not special. So it was a real issue in Toronto Fellowship when we had an open meeting.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. This isn't a meeting; it's just a speaker meeting. But I'm trying to show that all addictions, the root of it is pretty much the same, no matter where we're coming from, no matter what our background, our addiction, our killing addiction, or whatever we may call it, our religious background, our geographic background, whatever it is, it all boils down to basically one thing. And that's what I'm trying to do here in these meetings.
Well, I'm going to hit that home because I'm an all addictions girl.
Awesome.
And, I suffer the same as Cameron, and Cameron slams cocaine and bourbon, and I slam men and money and thought.
Yeah.
And we both lost the same things, and we both tried all the human aids, and so we were left with nothing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm really excited about this, Nikki. I'm really excited about getting this going.
Good. I hope so. It's funny you say that, because what I want to do, I'm trying to do is, I've been laid off during COVID, and so I'm a full-time sponsor. It's crazy. I was up yesterday 8 a.m. sponsoring a woman in Singapore because it was 8 p.m. her time. Right. And so long story short, I want to do exactly what you're doing, like a podcast or a web thing or a YouTube channel is really what I want. I'm like, because what happens is my forte that God's put on me is that I can take any addict through. I don't prefer to take alcoholics and drug addicts, but what I do is I get them when they're spinning. Because most of the time they're not happy, joyous, and free. They put down alcohol and drugs, and they're on page 52 being the dry drunk. Shoving anything in their God-shaped hole.
Okay, this is where we started the meeting up, and now we'll jump back to the end of the meeting, and we'll get into the Step 7 prayer that Nikki requested we do. Now, Nikki has asked that we do the 7th step prayer to launch us off into the rest of our day. Please join me now. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen.
Thank you, Justin.
Awesome. Keep coming back, everybody. It works if you work it. So work it. You're worth it.
grip of this life of mine. Peaks too high to conquer, streams too wide to cross, troughs too deep to walk through without incurring loss. Yet here I am, still standing tall, despite the rough terrain. One like me survived the storms and walked through wind and rain. Still standing, I will fight the good fight. Still searching for glimmers of light. Feet still on the ground, I can still be found. Standing still.
I still can fly. I may not soar unfettered. I may not rise too high.
Recorded in the book of life and bind it with the sea.